Hello, my dear friend. This is a channel filled with tales straight from the future, and we have a large collection of stories for children in audio format. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new stories.
Ethan and Mia, A Neon Forest Adventure. Part 1, The Cyber Forest's Edge. In the sprawling neon forest, where holographic trees glowed with ever-changing colors, lived the Johnson family. They resided in a small, run-down hover house on the outskirts of the forest, barely scraping by in a world of advanced technology and abundance. Zack, a hard-working repairman of old-fashioned androids, struggled to provide for his family. His wife, Sarah, was Zack's second marriage and stepmother to his two children, Ethan and Mia. The family faced extreme poverty, their nutrition packs running low and their power cells nearly depleted. One night, as the forest's bioluminescent flora cast eerie shadows through the hover house's cracked windows, Sarah whispered to Zack, "We can't go on like this. We barely have enough energy to power our home, let alone feed four mouths." Zack sighed, his face illuminated by the soft glow of their last functioning hololamp. "What can we do? We've tried everything." Sarah's eyes glinted in the dim light. "We could leave the children in the neon forest. They might find a better life, and we'd have a chance to survive." Zack's face fell, his heart heavy with guilt. "But they're just kids. How could we abandon them?" "It's our only choice," Sarah insisted. "We'll take them deep into the forest tomorrow and leave them there. They're smart. They might find a way to survive." Unknown to the adults, Ethan and Mia weren't asleep. They huddled together in their shared sleeping pod, listening to every word through the thin walls. Ethan, always quick thinking, whispered to his sister, "Don't worry, Mia, I have a plan." As soon as their parents' voices faded, Ethan snuck out of the hover house. He collected handful after handful of small glowing cyber-pebbles that littered the ground around their home. These pebbles, discarded remnants of old holo displays, still retained a faint glow. Stuffing his pockets with the luminous stones, Ethan returned to the sleeping pod, ready to face whatever challenges the next day would bring. Part 2, Glowing Breadcrumbs in the Neon Forest. The next morning, Sarah woke the children early. "We're going on an adventure," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Zack avoided looking at Ethan and Mia as he packed a small bag with their last nutrition bars. As they ventured deeper into the neon forest, the familiar glow of the city faded behind them. Holographic trees shimmered and shifted colors, creating a dazzling but disorienting environment. Ethan, pretending to lag behind, discreetly dropped his cyber pebbles along the path. Finally, they reached a small clearing where the forest's bioluminescent mushrooms cast a soft, ethereal light. Sarah spread out a hollow blanket and said, "Rest here, children. Your father and I need to gather some rare power cells. We'll be back soon." As Zack and Sarah disappeared into the glowing foliage, Mia turned to Ethan with tears in her eyes. "They're not coming back, are they?" Ethan hugged his sister. "Don't worry, I've got a plan." The children waited until the forest's artificial day cycle dimmed to night. In the darkness, Ethan's trail of cyber pebbles glowed faintly, creating a path back home. Hand in hand, Ethan and Mia followed the twinkling trail through the now ominous forest. Just as the first light of the new day cycle began to illuminate the forest, Ethan and Mia stumbled out of the tree line and back to their hover house. Zack, who had been sitting outside with his head in his hands, looked up in disbelief and joy. "Ethan! Mia!" he cried, rushing to embrace them. "How did you find your way back?" Before the children could answer, Sarah appeared in the doorway, her face a mix of shock and disappointment. "You're back," she said flatly. The family's reunion was short-lived. Within days, their situation grew even more desperate. The hover house's power cells were completely drained, and they had nothing left to eat. One night, Ethan and Mia overheard Sarah insisting to Zack, "We have to try again. This time we'll take them even deeper into the forest. It's the only way." Ethan squeezed Mia's hand in the darkness. This time he knew finding their way home would be much harder. Part 3, Lost in the Digital Wilderness. The next morning, Sarah woke the children before the forest day cycle had even begun. This time, she made sure to lock the hover house's door with a biometric seal, preventing Ethan from sneaking out to collect more cyber pebbles. Ethan, however, wasn't about to give up. As Sarah handed out their last nutrition bars for the journey, He quietly crumbled his into tiny pieces in his pocket. These digital food pellets, though small, gave off a faint glow, not as bright as the cyber-pebbles, but visible in the dark. The family set off into the neon forest once more, venturing far beyond where they had gone before. The familiar holographic trees gave way to stranger, more alien-looking digital flora. Bioluminescent vines wrapped around trees that seemed to shift and move. The ground beneath their feet pulsed with soft light, responding to their footsteps. As they walked, Ethan discreetly dropped pieces of his glowing nutrition bar, leaving a trail he hoped would lead them home. Finally, they reached a clearing where the digital canopy opened up to reveal a simulated night sky, complete with holographic stars and moons. Sarah spread out the hollow blanket again. "Wait here," Zack said, his voice heavy with guilt. "We'll be back soon." As their parents disappeared into the shifting landscape, Mia turned to Ethan. "You left a trail again, didn't you?" Ethan nodded. "We'll wait until it gets darker, then follow it home." But as the forest's night cycle deepened, something unexpected happened. Swarms of tiny, glowing insects, digital fireflies programmed to clean up the forest, descended upon Ethan's trail. To their horror, the children watched as the insects consumed the glowing crumbs, erasing their path home bit by bit. "No!" Ethan cried, running to salvage what was left of the trail. But it was too late. The digital fireflies had done their job, leaving no trace of the glowing crumbs behind. Mia grabbed Ethan's hand, her voice trembling. "What do we do now?" Ethan looked around at the unfamiliar, ever-shifting digital landscape. For the first time, he felt truly lost. "I don't know," he admitted. As the simulated night grew darker, the two children huddled together on the hollow blanket, surrounded by the strange sounds and sights of the deep neon forest, wondering what would become of them now. Part 4. Whispers of Hope in the Digital Wilderness. For what felt like an eternity, Ethan and Mia wandered through the ever-changing landscape of the neon forest. The holographic trees shifted and morphed around them, sometimes revealing paths only to close them off moments later. The children grew weaker with each passing hour, their energy levels dropping dangerously low. They tried to survive on what they could find: holographic fruit that provided little nourishment, and droplets of glowing dew that barely quenched their thirst. At night, they huddled together under the protective branches of data trees, their sleep fitful and filled with strange digital dreams. "I'm so tired, Ethan," Mia whimpered on the third day, her usual sparkle dimmed by exhaustion, "and so hungry." Ethan put on a brave face, though he felt just as depleted. "We'll find a way out, Mia. We have to keep going." Just as hope seemed lost, a flash of white caught their eyes. A beautiful, glowing bird made entirely of light pixels hovered nearby, its wings leaving trails of sparkling code in the air. "Look," Ethan exclaimed, "maybe it can lead us somewhere safe." The digital bird chirped a melody that sounded like tinkling crystals and took flight. With renewed energy, Ethan and Mia followed its radiant path through the forest. As they chased the bird, the forest began to change. The trees thinned out, and the ground beneath their feet transformed from pulsing light to what looked like a path made of rainbow-colored binary code. Suddenly, the bird vanished in a burst of pixels, and the children found themselves facing the most extraordinary sight they'd ever seen. Before them stood a house, but not like any they'd ever encountered in the cyber city. This house seemed to be made entirely of energy bars and power cells, with windows that looked like transparent tablets displaying moving images of sugary treats. Is that real?" Mia asked, her eyes wide with disbelief. Ethan reached out and touched the wall of the house. To his amazement, his hand came away with a piece of edible energy bar. "It's food," he exclaimed, "and power cells." Driven by their desperate hunger and need for energy, the children began to eat pieces of the house's walls and lick the sweet-tasting screens of the windows. For the first time in days, they felt their strength returning. As they ate, a small voice in the back of Ethan's mind warned him that this was too good to be true. But the overwhelming relief of finding food and energy drowned out his caution. Little did they know their discovery of this miraculous house was about to lead them into an even greater danger. Part 5, The Cyber Witch's Lair. As Ethan and Mia eagerly consumed parts of the energy house, a strange robotic voice suddenly echoed around them. Who's nibbling at my house? Startled, the children froze. A panel in the house slid open, revealing a woman unlike any they'd ever seen. She appeared to be part human, part machine, a cyborg with glowing eyes and silver hair that seemed to float and spark with electricity. "Oh, you poor dears," the cyborg woman cooed, her voice now sounding warm and inviting. "You must be so tired and hungry. Come inside, I have plenty of energy bars and power cells for you." Ethan hesitated, but Mia, enticed by the promise of food and rest, stepped forward. "It's okay," the woman said, smiling. "I'm Madam Circuit, and I love having young visitors." Inside, the house was a tech wonderland. Hollow screens displayed mouth-watering images of food, and the air hummed with energy. Madam Circuit led them to a table overflowing with glowing energy bars and shimmering power cells. "Eat, eat," she encouraged. "You need to recharge." As the children ate their fill, Madam Circuit's eyes glowed brighter, a sinister smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Unbeknownst to Ethan and Mia, they had fallen into the trap of the infamous cyber witch, known for luring lost children with her energy house. Once the children were full and drowsy, Madam Circuit's demeanor suddenly changed. Her kind smile transformed into a wicked grin, and her gentle hum became a menacing buzz. "Now then," she cackled, her voice reverting to its robotic tone, "it's time you earned your keep." With lightning speed, she grabbed Ethan and shoved him into what looked like a giant transparent battery cell. "You'll stay here and fatten up on energy until you're fully charged," she sneered. Turning to Mia, the cyber witch's eyes flashed dangerously. "And you, my dear, will be my little helper. You'll keep this place running and make sure your brother stays nice and plump with energy." Mia tried to run, but found her feet stuck to the floor, held in place by a magnetic force. "Don't bother trying to escape," Madam Circuit warned. "This house is full of my traps and tech. You're mine now." As the reality of their situation sank in, Ethan and Mia exchanged terrified looks. They had escaped one danger only to fall into an even worse one. Now, trapped in the cyber witch's lair, they would need all their wits and courage to find a way out. Part 6, Digital Deception. Days in the cyber witch's lair blurred together in a haze of humming machinery and flickering hollow screens. Madam Circuit was determined to fatten Ethan up with energy, force-feeding him the most potent power cells and energy bars she could concoct. "Eat, eat," she would screech, her robotic voice grating on Ethan's ears. "The more energy you absorb, the better you'll taste when I download your essence." Meanwhile, Mia was forced to work tirelessly, cleaning the ever-changing rooms of the energy house and maintaining the witch's complex machinery. She survived on mere scraps of low-grade energy, her own power levels constantly teetering on the edge of depletion. Every morning, Madam Circuit would approach Ethan's transparent cell, her eyes glowing with anticipation. "Stick out your power cord, boy," she'd demand. "Let me see how much you've charged up." But Ethan was clever. He had discovered an old, dead power cord in his cell and kept it hidden. When the witch asked to check his charge, he would stick out this useless cord instead of his own. "Still so low on energy?" Madam Circuit would grumble, her metallic brow furrowing in frustration. "How can this be? I'm feeding you the highest grade power cells." This deception continued for weeks. The cyber witch grew increasingly agitated, unable to understand why Ethan wasn't becoming fully charged despite all the energy she was pumping into him. Mia, exhausted from her constant labor, would sneak moments with her brother when the witch was occupied with her machines. "How long can we keep this up?" she whispered one day, her voice weak from lack of energy. Ethan gripped the dead power cord tightly. "As long as we have to," he replied, determination shining in his eyes. "We'll find a way out of here, Mia, I promise." But as the days wore on, both children felt their hope dwindling. The cyber witch's patience was wearing thin, and her temper grew more volatile with each passing day. Ethan and Mia knew that soon they would need to find a way to outsmart the witch once and for all, before she decided to drain their energy, regardless of how charged they were. In the depths of the energy house, surrounded by the constant hum of malevolent technology, the children clung to their wits and to each other, knowing that their very survival depended on their ability to keep deceiving their digital captor. Part 7, Countdown to Deletion. 4 weeks had passed, and Madam Circuit's patience had finally run out. Her metallic features twisted into a scowl as she stormed into the room where Ethan was held captive. "Enough," she screeched, her voice distorting with rage. "I don't care if you're not fully charged. I'm going to download your essence now before you drain any more of my resources." She turned to Mia, who was trembling in the corner. "You, boot up the Essence Extractor. We're going to process your brother today." Mia's eyes widened in horror. The what?" Madame Circuit's eyes flashed dangerously. "The Essence Extractor, you foolish child. It's the big machine in the central processing room. Power it up and set it to maximum capacity." With shaking hands, Mia moved towards the door. The cyber witch's cold, mechanical laugh stopped her in her tracks. "Oh, and don't think I've forgotten about you, my little helper," Madame Circuit sneered. "Once I'm done with your brother, you're next. 2 essences are better than 1 after all." Mia felt her circuits go cold with fear. She looked at Ethan, still trapped in his transparent cell, and saw the same terror reflected in his eyes. As Mia worked on the enormous essence extractor, her mind raced. The machine was a nightmarish tangle of wires, tubes, and pulsing energy cores. At its center was a chair with menacing-looking attachments, clearly where Madame Circuit intended to place Ethan. "Hurry up!" the cyber witch called from the other room. "I want that machine running at full power in the next 10 minutes, or I'll start the process with you instead." Mia's hands flew over the controls, pretending to comply while desperately trying to think of a way out. She knew that once the essence extractor was fully powered up, it would be the end for both her and Ethan. As the machine hummed to life, its energy cores glowing with an ominous red light, Mia realized that their time was almost up. In mere minutes, Madame Circuit would return to begin the horrifying process. With tears in her eyes, Mia looked around the room, searching for anything that might help them escape. It was then that she noticed something odd about the Essence Extractor's control panel, a vulnerability that just might be their salvation. As the countdown to their deletion ticked away, Mia knew she had to act fast. Whatever plan she could come up with, she had to do it now, or she and Ethan would be nothing more than digital memories in the cyber witch's cruel machine. Part 8. Overloading the system. As the essence extractor hummed ominously, Madame Circuit burst into the room, her eyes glowing with malevolent excitement. "Is it ready?" she demanded, her metallic voice crackling with anticipation. Mia nodded nervously, her mind racing. "It's powered up, but I'm not sure if I've set it correctly. The energy levels seem strange." The cyber witch scowled. "Useless child, let me check it myself." She stomped over to the control panel, shoving Mia aside. As Madame Circuit leaned in to examine the settings, Mia's heart pounded. This was their only chance. "I think there might be something wrong with the extraction chair," she said quickly. "Maybe you should test it?" The witch turned, suspicion flickering in her glowing eyes. "Test it? Why would I need to do that?" Mia swallowed hard. "Well, if it's not calibrated properly, it might not extract the full essence. You wouldn't want to waste Ethan's energy, would you?" For a moment, Madame Circuit hesitated. Then her greed overtook her caution. "Fine, I'll show you how it's done, you incompetent little glitch." As the cyber witch settled into the extraction chair, Mia's fingers flew over the control panel. She had noticed earlier that the machine's safeguards were outdated, a vulnerability she could exploit. "Now pay attention," Madame Circuit began, but her words turned into a screech as Mia suddenly slammed all the energy regulators to maximum. The essence extractor roared to life, its cores pulsing with blinding light. Madame Circuit thrashed in the chair, her circuits overloading. "What have you done?" she shrieked, her voice distorting into digital noise. "Giving you a taste of your own medicine," Mia said, her voice steady despite her fear. She pressed the final button, initiating a full power surge. The room filled with a brilliant flash and a deafening electronic wail. When the light faded, Madame Circuit was gone. In her place was a small smoking data chip, all that remained of the once fearsome cyber witch. Mia rushed to Ethan's cell, quickly figuring out how to deactivate it. As Ethan stumbled out, the siblings embraced, both shaking with relief and residual fear. "You did it, Mia," Ethan whispered, his voice filled with awe and gratitude. "You saved us both." Mia managed a small smile. "We saved each other. Now, let's get out of here before anything else tries to delete us." Hand in hand, the children hurried towards the exit, leaving behind the defeated cyber witch and her house of digital horrors. Their ordeal wasn't over yet, but they had overcome their greatest challenge together. Digital exodus. With the cyber witch defeated, Ethan and Mia wasted no time. They raced through the energy house, gathering anything that might help them on their journey home. The house, no longer under the witch's control, began to flicker and destabilize around them. "Look," Ethan exclaimed, pointing to a shelf filled with glowing data crystals. "These must be where she stored all her stolen energy." Mia nodded, quickly stuffing her pockets with the shimmering crystals. "They'll keep us powered up for the journey." As they prepared to leave, they noticed a small device on the witch's desk. It was a holomap, showing the layout of the neon forest. With this, they had a chance of finding their way home. Just as the energy house began to collapse into pixels behind them, Ethan and Mia burst out into the forest. The familiar yet alien landscape of glowing trees and digital flora surrounded them once more. Using the holomap as a guide, they set off, their path illuminated by the soft glow of the data crystals in their pockets. They walked for hours, the forest slowly changing around them, becoming denser and more chaotic. Suddenly, they found themselves at the edge of a vast, shimmering expanse, a lake of pure data, its surface rippling with streams of binary code. The holomap showed no way around it. "How are we going to cross this?" Mia asked, her voice tinged with worry. As if in answer, a strange sound caught their attention. A sleek, robotic duck glided towards them, its eyes glowing with a friendly blue light. "Greetings, young ones," the duck said, its voice melodious and synthetic. "I am the navigation duck, programmed to assist lost travelers. Do you require transportation across the data lake?" Ethan and Mia exchanged surprised looks before nodding eagerly. They climbed onto the duck's smooth back, marveling at how it expanded to accommodate them comfortably. As they glided across the data lake, the duck shared stories of the forest, explaining how it had changed over time. The children listened in wonder, realizing how much they had yet to learn about this digital world. On the other side of the lake, they thanked the navigation duck and continued their journey. With each step, the forest began to look more familiar. The chaotic alien plants gave way to the more orderly holographic trees they remembered from the forest's edge. Hope surged through them as they recognized landmarks from their first journey into the forest. They were getting close to home. "We're almost there, Mia," Ethan said, squeezing his sister's hand. "We're going to make it." As the glow of the city began to peek through the trees ahead, Ethan and Mia quickened their pace. Their incredible adventure was nearing its end, and home was finally within reach. Part 10, Homecoming Reboot. As the last holographic trees parted, Ethan and Mia finally saw their familiar hover house. Its power cells were dim, barely keeping the structure afloat, but it was still the most beautiful sight they'd ever seen. With hearts pounding, they approached the door. Before they could knock, it slid open with a weak hum, revealing their father, Zack. His eyes were sunken, his face gaunt with worry and guilt. For a moment, Zack stood frozen, unable to believe what he was seeing. Then, with a cry of joy and relief, he rushed forward, enveloping both children in a tight embrace. "Ethan, Mia, you're alive," he sobbed, his voice cracking with emotion. "I thought I'd lost you forever. I'm so sorry, so very sorry for what we did." As they entered the hover house, the children noticed the silence. "Where's Sarah?" Mia asked hesitantly. Zack's face fell. She couldn't live with the guilt of what we'd done. She left shortly after we abandoned you. I haven't seen her since." Ethan and Mia exchanged glances, their feelings mixed, but there would be time to process that later. For now, they were just happy to be home. "Dad," Ethan said, reaching into his pocket, "we brought something that might help us." He pulled out a handful of glowing data crystals, their light filling the dim hover house. Zack's eyes widened in disbelief. "Are those pure energy crystals? But they're incredibly rare and valuable." Mia joined in, emptying her pockets of the shimmering treasures. "We have more," she said, smiling. "Enough to power our home and buy food for a long time." Overcome with emotion, Zack hugged his children again. "You brave, clever children," he whispered. "You've saved us all." Over the next few weeks, their lives transformed. The energy crystals provided more than enough power to run their hover house efficiently. Zack was able to upgrade his repair business, now working on the latest Android models instead of outdated ones. Ethan and Mia shared their incredible adventure with their father, who listened with a mix of awe and lingering guilt. But as days passed, the family grew closer than ever before, their bond strengthened by the ordeal they had overcome. The Hover House, once dim and dreary, now glowed with warmth and life. The children's room was filled with books on technology and programming, gifts from their father to nurture their newfound skills and bravery. As they sat together one evening, watching the neon forest shimmer in the distance, Zack put his arms around his children. "I promise," he said softly, "we'll never be parted again. Whatever challenges come, we'll face them together." Ethan and Mia snuggled closer to their father, feeling safe and loved. Their harrowing journey had taught them the value of family, the power of cleverness, and the importance of never giving up hope. And so, in their cozy hover house on the edge of the neon forest, the little family lived on, their future bright with the glow of love, security, and endless possibilities.
Until next time, my dear friend, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new stories.